Octavian, the man who would become Augustus, faced unimaginable challenges to shape the future of Rome. His military victories were more than just ordinary battles. They set the course for an empire that would last for centuries. From Mutina to Actium, each campaign solidified his power, but what really made him unstoppable? Today, we'll explore the strategies and decisions that allowed Octavian to transform a dying republic into the Roman Empire. The story behind his achievements is deeper than you might think and reveals how a leader can change the fate of an entire civilization. Are you ready to discover what made Augustus one of Rome's greatest commanders? Octavian was born in 63 BC into a family of status, but without the direct political power that dominated Rome at the time. However, his relationship with Julius Caesar, who was his great-uncle and later adopted him as his heir, would change the course of his life. From a young age, Octavian displayed shrewdness and an uncommon political intelligence for his age. When Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, he was just 18 years old, but upon learning of his adoption, Octavian quickly grasped the potential that moment offered him and began to consolidate support. Upon arriving in Rome, Octavian found himself in an arena filled with experienced adversaries, but he surprised everyone with his skill in manipulating alliances and his precise use of propaganda. His first major move was to secure the army that Caesar had built, offering money and loyalty to the veterans. The Senate, initially hesitant, underestimated the young man's determination. Quickly, he began to be seen not as a young idealist, but as a potential successor to Caesar's legacy. His rise to power was characterized by a mix of boldness and patience, waiting for the right moments to act. However, Octavian faced challenges right from the start. Mark Antony, one of Caesar's chief allies, was not willing to share power with an unknown young man. The rivalry between the two began to grow, and Octavian knew he would need not only political support, but also military victories to be taken seriously. At this point, he began to chart his path toward military control, understanding that power in Rome was not just in words, but in achievements on the battlefield. Even early in his career, Octavian showed a crucial skill that would define him as a leader: the ability to form temporary alliances, even with those who might be his enemies in the future. He formed a pact with Mark Antony and Lepidus, creating the Second Triumvirate, a temporary alliance to eliminate Caesar's assassins and reorganize power in Rome. This was a key strategic move that allowed Octavian to strengthen his position without appearing as a direct threat to the other commanders. With this political and military maneuver, Octavian ensured he was not just a nominal heir of Caesar, but a true player in the Roman political scene. While others underestimated his determination and adaptability, he quietly amassed power, preparing for the first of many decisive battles that would shape his path to the throne. In 43 BC, Octavian faced his first major military test at the Battle of Mutina, a battle that was not only a test of his capabilities on the battlefield, but also of his political alliances. The conflict was a direct result of the growing tension between Mark Antony and the Senate, which supported Caesar's assassins and feared Antony's emerging power. The Senate, aware of Octavian's abilities, saw him as a useful tool to weaken Mark Antony, providing him with the military command needed to confront the veteran general. Mutina was a fierce battle, and although it was not a decisive victory in military terms, it was a political triumph for Octavian. He managed to temporarily destabilize Mark Antony, and more importantly, demonstrated to the Senate that he was a force to be reckoned with. Although he fought alongside the senatorial forces, Octavian was never fully loyal to the Republic, and this battle revealed his true aim: to use the Republican forces to strengthen himself before turning the game in his favor. After the battle, Octavian revealed one of his most dangerous traits: the ability to turn against allies who no longer served him. The Senate, believing they could manipulate him, soon discovered that he was far more ambitious and unpredictable than they had imagined. Octavian marched on Rome and demanded to be named consul, a move that shocked the Republican leaders but consolidated his position of power. He used Mutina not only to test his military leadership, but to reaffirm his political control. Despite his youth, Octavian demonstrated a strategic understanding that many veteran generals lacked. He knew that winning battles was not enough. It was essential to control the narrative. After Mutina, he began to promote his image as Caesar's true heir, the man destined to restore order in Rome. While Mark Antony recovered from defeat and prepared his next move, Octavian was more focused than ever on consolidating his dominance over Rome and its legions. The Battle of Mutina thus became a springboard for Octavian's rise. He used the crisis to position himself as the savior of the Republic, even if his plans were far more ambitious. By the end of this campaign, it was clear to everyone that Octavian was a leader to be feared, someone willing to do whatever it took to ensure that his vision of Rome prevailed. After the Battle of Mutina, Octavian knew he couldn't sustain his rise without a bold strategic move. Although he had just fought against Mark Antony, he quickly realized that a direct confrontation with the veteran general at that moment would be risky. Instead of prolonging the rivalry, Octavian opted for a brilliant political play, a temporary alliance. Thus, he joined forces with Mark Antony and Lepidus to form the Second Triumvirate, a coalition that would reorganize power in Rome and eliminate Caesar's assassins. The triumvirate was both a survival tactic and a strategic maneuver. Octavian knew that without powerful allies, his chances of consolidating control over Rome would be minimal. However, the alliance with Mark Antony was not formed without mutual distrust. Both men had imperial ambitions, and Octavian understood that the pact would not last forever. But at that moment, the union was seen as necessary to defeat Brutus and Cassius, the men responsible for Caesar's death, and to restore order in Rome. The true test of this alliance came at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, when the forces of Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus faced the armies of the Republican senators led by Brutus and Cassius. Although Octavian was not as experienced a military commander as Mark Antony, he knew how to delegate and trust in the expertise of his allies. The victory at Philippi was decisive for the fate of the Republic, and once again, Octavian used the war to strengthen his legitimacy as Caesar's successor. However, after the victory at Philippi, the alliance with Mark Antony began to show signs of strain. Octavian returned to Rome to consolidate his political control, while Mark Antony went east, where he would begin his involvement with Cleopatra. Octavian carefully watched his triumvirate partners' movements, knowing that, at some point, the rivalry between the two would resurface with full force. While Mark Antony distanced himself from Rome, Octavian worked diligently to build a solid power base among the people and the Senate. The alliance with Mark Antony was a demonstration of Octavian's ability to adapt his strategies to ensure his survival and rise. He knew that while the bonds between them were temporary, patience and planning would put him in a favorable position when the inevitable rupture occurred. And when the right moment came, he would be ready to confront Mark Antony directly. The tension between Octavian and Mark Antony, which had been contained by their alliance, finally exploded in 31 BC at the famous Battle of Actium. This was not just a battle between two powerful commanders, but a conflict that would define the future of Rome. Mark Antony, alongside Cleopatra, represented a direct threat to Octavian's power, especially with the support of Egyptian forces. Actium would be the stage where the fate of the Roman Empire would be decided. The campaign at Actium was marked by careful preparation from Octavian and his military commander Agrippa, who played a crucial role in the naval strategy. Octavian understood that to win, he needed to secure control of the sea. His fleet blocked the exit of Antony and Cleopatra's forces in the Gulf of Actium, forcing them into a battle they were unprepared to win. Octavian's skill in utilizing his naval resources demonstrated his ability to adapt his strategies to the circumstances. During the battle, Antony and Cleopatra were tactically and militarily outmatched. Cleopatra, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control, fled with her fleet, and Antony, in a desperate gesture, followed her. This moment marked the collapse of Antony and Cleopatra's resistance, leaving Octavian as the clear victor. Although the battle was a military triumph, it was also a political victory, as Octavian now had total control over the fate of Rome. The Battle of Actium symbolized more than just the end of a civil war. It represented the beginning of a new era. With Antony's defeat, Octavian became the sole master of Rome. Unlike the generals who came before him, Octavian had a clear plan to reorganize power and transform the Roman Republic into an empire under his command. Actium was not only the pinnacle of his military career, but also the milestone that solidified his absolute control over the Roman world. With the end of Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian could finally return to Rome as the uncontested leader. He would be hailed no longer as Octavian, but as Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Battle of Actium was the final obstacle he needed to overcome to ensure dominance over an empire that would last for centuries.